Hello, everybody. It's been a while. I'm recovering from a bout of bronchitis, so I might sound a little rough today. But anyway, I'm back with another book review. So imagine peeling off your own face layer by painful layer because the world tells you a better one is waiting underneath. That's the brutal promise at the heart of Molting, a short story where every cosmetic surgery scar feels like shedding a snakeskin. But what happens when a society based on beauty can't recognize the person who emerges? So, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me for another book review. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and all that sort of stuff. Today I'm reviewing Molting by Kwon In, and it's a razor sharp story about plastic surgery, family grief, and the price of self reinvention in modern Seoul. So let's get started. But before I get into the book, I just want to say a quick word about the publisher. So the publishing company is called Nabiwabook. Nabi is Korean for butterfly, and the company was founded on the idea that every new story resembles a butterfly drying its fragile, just unfurled wings, vulnerable but destined for flight. At least that's how they describe themselves in their sort of press blurbing. The stated intention of this sort of publishing company and this series of books is to give these sort of vulnerable butterfly wings life, right? And to champion fresh, lyrical, and daring Korean voices in both Korean and in English. And so these editions have both the Korean original text and the English translation. So I highly recommend them. I've already reviewed one of the stories called Plastic Rice. You can find that one on the channel, and I've got a few more lined up to review over the next couple of days. And I'm excited to see what new stories they publish. So let's get to the story. So we're talking about molting. Our narrator is a young woman called Il-hye. I think she's roughly in her mid-20s, mid to late 20s. She's already had 3 cosmetic procedures and is recovering from a facelift when a phone call drags her to a family funeral. She hasn't seen her family in some time. But anyway, she goes to the funeral, and her face, her cheeks are still swollen and bruised to such an extent that our relatives barely recognize her. And she encounters an uncle who had several pet snakes, and he comments that he liked snakes because they shed the skin that they could no longer stand. And this casual comment kind of becomes the symbol of the story. So Jihei's surgeries are her molts, her shedded skin. But unlike with the snakes that her uncle is so fond of, each new skin costs her money, pain, and crucially, pieces of her identity. And so this sort of snake imagery and symbolism will recur throughout the story. So South Korea has the one of the highest per capita cosmetic surgery rates in the world, might be the highest. Clinics line Seoul's Gangnam district, like coffee shops. If you go down to that part of Seoul, if you go down to the Gangnam area or Apgujeong, you'll see lots of signs for plastic surgeons. When you're on the subway or just going around the city, you'll see, advertising and billboards and so on, promising perfect lines and V-shaped jaws and so on. And these procedures start in high school, and it's not uncommon for parents to gift double eyelid surgery to their daughters for graduation. Economically, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's sort of based on marketing self-transformation as self-improvement. And socially, it fuels what's often referred to as lookism, this belief that a beautiful face is a prerequisite for jobs, for romance, and perhaps even for friendship. And Kwon's story drops Jihei squarely into this lookism culture. She edits beauty vlogs. She's saving for procedures instead of saving for a housing deposit, and mentions in passing job interviews where recruiters might do things like rank applicants on looks before skills. So this is the environment that Jihei occupies. Anyway, back at the funeral, Jihei is still sort of stuck in this conversation with her uncle, who's romanticizing his pet snakes. He says snakes are the cleanest animals. They shed their old selves the moment the skin grows dull. And Jihei kind of clings to this image. This sort of image lingers in her mind. And she thinks that after each surgery, she's having this kind of experience, right? After these surgeries, she does things like she'll throw away old school photos or expired ID cards. These are kind of relics sort of lining the floor, these sort of discarded items of a previous self. But then Kwon kind of inverts or flips the sort of snakeskin metaphor, because the snakes are molting to grow stronger, whereas Jihei is molting to stay employable, to stay a viable candidate in the job market and the romance market. And the snake's new skin is natural, but Jihei's new face is stitched and bruised and numbed and swollen. And I guess we can assume that snakes don't regret the shedding of the skin, whereas Jihei is filled with regret. She watches family memories fade along with her old facial features. So Kwon asks a haunting question. So is Jihei evolving into something new, or is she simply erasing who she is? She's erasing who she was and has been, erasing herself, erasing her own identity. And this idea of plastic surgery, it's not, especially here in Korea, it's not just about vanity. It's very closely connected to class mobility. And we can see this in the story too. So Jihei's cousin once begged for a nose job, but her mother, I think, or her father beats her and says that she's acting like a street girl. That only street girls do things like that. Whereas Jihei has a job where she edits like YouTube videos, and again we hear about these sort of YouTubers who live stream their surgeries or the results of their surgeries and so on to hundreds of thousands and even millions of fans. And so we can see this contrast as well in the generational attitude towards plastic surgery. So in the story, we have uncles and parents and aunties and so on, and they represent the older generation who've survived dictatorships and struggles for democracy, and perhaps they value grit over appearance, whereas the younger generation has inherited stagnant wages and skyrocketing housing costs, and they've been sold on the idea of beauty as a primary asset. And at one point, Jihei is scolded for wasting money on fake faces, but feels that she can't compete in a job market that's dominated by sort of ultra polished millennials. I'd just like to mention like a little story from my own classroom here in Seoul. So a few semesters ago, one of my undergraduates, let's just call her student A, gave a presentation about her own experience of plastic surgery, and it was heartbreaking. So when she was a middle school student, she was bullied quite seriously, and her bullies would call her Gollum. Because of her eyes and her nose. And this teasing, teasing doesn't really do it justice, right? This sort of bullying or victimization followed her into high school, and eventually her parents uh, desperate to help, paid for multiple facial surgeries. And the operations were technically successful by, I guess, by clinical standards. But student A told the class that she still woke up feeling ugly, that she still didn't feel pretty. She looked in the mirror and she sees this new face, which was significantly different from her original face, but she still couldn't help hearing these sort of insults. Um, from these childhood bullies, and so she changed her appearance, but she still had these sort of lingering psychological scars underneath, of course. And what her presentation captures is exactly what Kwon is dramatizing in Molting, right? So the surgeon's scalpel can erase a feature or alter a feature, but it can't automatically, silence or erase years of bullying, or can't change a culture that ranks human value on V lines and eyelids. Anyway, so Jihei goes through these procedures, and at one point, she signs a consent form listing, various awful things like blood clots and nerve damage, or potential risks of anesthesia. And as she's signing this document, the nurse tries to play it down. Oh, it's nothing. We do hundreds of these, dozens of these surgeries every day. Don't worry about it. But Jihei can't help thinking about ghost surgeries. So, ghost surgeries are when an unlicensed stand in operates on the patient while they sleep. And this isn't fictional. In 2016, a college student died after one of these so called ghost surgeries. And this led to a law, I think, in 2022, which mandated there had to be cameras in operating rooms. And this is actually, if you start looking into this, it seems like this is a sort of very, dark but very open secret. And how it works is the patient, like Jihei in the story, signs a consent form for a doctor with a great reputation, who's celebrated and maybe even famous or whatever, and then they go under the anesthesia, and without ever knowing, they wake up having been stitched back together by a stand-in who isn't the famous doctor, but might be a junior, a junior doctor or a trainee, or sometimes a nurse, or someone not as qualified, and certainly not the person the patient thinks they were signing up to be operated on by. And this practice is, of course, illegal, but watchdogs, if you look at some of the newspaper articles about it over the past several years, say that it's a rampant practice in this sort of multi-billion-dollar cosmetic surgery market. And yeah, so there was a 24-year-old student who died because of this. They booked a jawline reduction, and he hemorrhaged on the table. And by the time his brother arrived at the ER, the patient was unconscious. His facial bandages were sort of saturated in blood, and he never recovered. He died a few weeks later. And when it was investigated, they learned that the surgeon who had meant to be doing the surgery had been juggling multiple operations at the same time, and had left an underqualified substitute, one of these ghost doctors, to finish Kwon's procedure, to finish, sorry, the patient's procedure, and they botched the job, leading to this person dying. And so it was cases like this that pushed Korean lawmakers to pass a sort of a CCTV law, forcing, or technically it should be forcing, clinics to film all of the operations. But I mean, this has been criticized too. People just suggest that the profit margin rewards this kind of assembly line efficiency. And so this sort of temptation to swap in less qualified or cheaper technicians to do these things will perhaps keep happening, keep haunting the operating rooms. And what Kwon reminds us in this story is that behind the sort of glossy before and after photos that you might see when you're traveling the Seoul subway, that really there's kind of a medical wild west where profit often outruns regulation. So another part of this story that I liked a lot was the structure. So Kwon structures molting like layers of skin. So we have sections that are in present tense where Jihei is hiding excuse me, bruises at the family funeral. We have flashbacks to the sort of previous surgeries, to childhood teasing about her round nose, and to various events that happened with her family. And then we also have these sort of embedded memories as well, of sort of various incidents that have happened between, her father and her uncle, and some other things. And so that this sort of fractured timeline mirrors Jihei's fractured and fragmented identity. The first person voice sort of pulls us under, we feel her, the unpleasantness that she's experiencing, the swelling eyelids, the sort of shame of being unfinished in public, and so on. It's quite effective. It's very effective. And then, what can we say in conclusion about this story and stories like this? So, does Jihei emerge healed or lost? And well, Kwon leaves us an ambiguity, which is, I think, quite fitting for a society where self reinvention is marketed as freedom, but often costs much more than is bargained for. But molting isn't necessarily anti surgery propaganda. It is an indictment of a system that equates self worth with surface perfection and then sells that perfection back to you. Um, but whether you're pro procedure or not, and who hasn't contemplated getting a little something done? I mean, I've contemplated getting my hairline. Things are the hairline's beginning to recede a little bit. I've thought about getting a hair transplant, right? Um, so the story is asking, if beauty is power, who's really profiting, from this insecurity, right? Anyway, thanks for watching. If you, enjoy stories that cut beneath the skin, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more reviews. Feel free to leave a comment. Have you or someone you know felt pressure to change their appearance for work or love, romance, or friendship? Do you see any parallels between Korea's beauty economy and your own culture, your own beauty standards? Anyway, feel free to leave a comment. And like I said, just thanks for watching. I'm still recovering from a little, feeling a little under the weather. So this might have been a bit of a lower energy review today. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next review. All the best.